Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this week is value-based tourism, how to help Cambodia develop its sustainable tourism industry. As we all know, in many countries, whether developing or transition economy, least developed country like Cambodia, the tourism sector represents a critical component of the national economy. It generates employment, it earns foreign exchange, and in the eye of many of us here, it represents an opportunity to contribute to the development of the economy. Today we have the pleasure to have with us an authority of the I like to call sustainable development tourism, but in fact it's more about something much more exciting than just that word sustainable, which everybody keep talking, sustainable, green. But we will have the opportunity to hear some very concrete initiative as related to this particular sustainable tourism industry. We have with us today Mr. Rory Hundter, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Brocon Group. And Mr. Rory has a proven track record as a business founder, owner, and executive in Australia and in Southeast Asia. In 2005, he has moved to Cambodia after working quite a long time as a senior management position with one of the world's top leading agency, Saatchi & Saatchi. His company, Brocon Group, is an established market leader in luxury and high-end property development in Cambodia. I will ask him later on to speak a bit about some of his initiatives in the country. But his flagship initiative is the development, the first time in the history of Cambodia, the development of a private island, of high-end resort private island called the Songsaa private island. Welcome, Rory.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Welcome to our show. Before we move to the key theme of our discussion today, let me just say how pleased I am to have you on the show. And we hope that today, this free dialogue, we could share each other a bit, some of the experience, more from your side than from our side, on how we can build this notion of value-based tourism, which I believe it's quite important in the sense of looking at way you increase the value retention in the tourism, how you can use the tourism as a contribution to value addition to the local economy, and also perhaps look at the prospect of value creation on something that we already have. In this case, maybe before we go further, can you say something a bit about your experience a bit in Cambodia, also in Australia, and perhaps a bit about your company?
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying, we've been here since 2005, and we were attracted to Cambodia because it's such an exciting country that's awakening so rapidly, and from a business perspective provides tremendous opportunities. Very much starting from a low base, but that means that you can come in and you have a clean slate. So you're not bound by historical challenges and issues, particularly in the tourism sector. Cambodia has a wealth of attractions. It's not just Angkor Wat, and we're just very excited to be at the forefront of developing the industry.
Rory, for most of us who are not privy to the intricacy, the complexity of tourism industry, for us we look at tourism industry as a supply and demand. Well, demand in the context, well, how many visitors Cambodia has attract, how many room night we have in Siem Reap or in Phnom Penh, what's the room rate, how much dollars been spent in the country. That's for us mortal citizen, that's all we know about. And then on the supply side, for us, we know, what does Cambodia have in terms of attraction? We think of Angkor Wat automatically, but there's other sort of attraction. We feel that supply side, we have to be able to build more hotel room, we have to build more facility. But then we also have to think that in order to attract these tourists, this tourism industry to come, we have to look at also the enabling and facilitating environment. Maybe you can differentiate a bit this notion of supply and demand, from the traditional understanding of tourism versus the so-called value-add, value-based tourism, which is a little bit a world apart to my understanding.
Like any industry, supply and demand means that you've got to build a product that somebody wants. So it's not about being the biggest and creating hotels that are 500, 600 rooms. It's about building a product that Cambodia can then sell to the international market. And that's where the value creation comes in. It's about building the right hotel, the right experience for foreign guests when they come to Cambodia. So it's, in many respects, it's more about quality than quantity.
Quality and quantity here, you would refer that up to now Cambodia has a lot, we've been managing to build a lot of quantity of the service facility to welcome the tourism industry to Cambodia, it's clear. Can you say a bit more about the quality of development tourism in Cambodia?
Quality comes in many different ways. It's not just the quality of the hotel; it's the impact that the development has. And we all use the word sustainability, but by its very nature, development changes the situation. So quality, in our definition, is very much not just building a great hotel, but how you interact with your local environment and the community within which you're developing.
So in this context, we're looking at a much larger perspective than just the tour operator, than just the hotel operator, than just the tourist. You're looking inclusively of the whole community as a whole. Then let me move a bit into the environment a bit, the sort of like the conducive environment to attract foreign direct investment in the tourism industry in this context. I believe that the work of the private sector is very crucial to attract the level of investment to the country. The state will not be in position to expand all this money. Of course, they have to do their share in terms of infrastructure and other facility, public facility, but the bulk of the investment will be on the private sector. On the public sector, we see a big drive to try to facilitate this environment for better regulation, for better fiscal, non-fiscal incentive, but I can put the two things together in a form of public-private sector partnership. In your experience in Cambodia, working in Cambodia, developing the industry, the tourism industry, how do you perceive Cambodia public-private sector partnership in the development of tourism industry?
Well, the will is there, from a national level with the Council for the Development of Cambodia, which is the body we primarily deal with, all the way through to provincial and local level. The will is there, to not just do it, but to do it right, and to take a view where the environment needs to be protected and local communities need to be nourished and provided long-term opportunities. The biggest challenge, of course, for the state is lack of resource, and that's where the private sector comes in. So this partnership is ideal for a country like Cambodia, so that the direction and the strategy, if you like, is set, but the tools to execute it comes from the private sector.
Rory, I think now I want to put a little bit into in the context, maybe something much more concrete, and it's easier to relate to this theoretical notion of development, as we know that most of the time is only for policymaker. Maybe you should say a bit something about your private island development, Songsaa, and then from there we could spin off other theoretical discussion, but in the context of a much more practical, something you can see, something you can touch. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, we were granted a concession over two very small islands, Ko'oan and Kobong, and we're developing the country's first luxury, environmentally sensitive resort. It's been under construction for the last 5 months, and we're opening in October next year. And because we're the first, we think we have a responsibility to set the benchmark as high as possible. And it's not about just setting the benchmark for the quality of what we're building, but it's also the impact that we have in the communities, the fishing communities. You know, historically, the island-based communities have been dependent on fishing. Fishing yields are declining, so their income streams are dwindling. And tourism is the ideal way for these communities to survive on a sustainable level. You know, so when we talk about sustainability, it's about an industry being able to survive for the long term. And it's not just about the business, it's not just about the community, it's also about the environment. For us to be able to have a long-term view, the environment needs to be protected. So we take what we call a triple bottom line approach, where it's not purely profit-driven. Profit is intrinsically linked into the development of the community and the preservation of the environment.
Rory, you mentioned several times the notion of protecting the environment. Maybe I'm as a policymaker, I have the tendency to link more from the development perspective. Maybe what you're trying to say, if I can capture that, is the balancing act between development for profit motivated initiative, but at the same time, how do you, while you're making the profit, you put them back, you know, into the system, into the environment, into the community, so that it is sustainable. So here probably it fits into our discussion that, you know, there has to be a clear dynamic relationship between tourism development, conservation, and the environment, and to what extent, you know, the public sector and the private sector can work together to maintain this balance between the two. Could you just expand a bit more on what do you see, you know, the state, what do you see, you know, you as a private operator, which you did mention a bit already, you know, how do you actually help maintain this balancing act?
Well, I think from the state's perspective, it's taking a long-term view. You know, development for development's sake is not the right thing for the long-term value creation. And if it means that it takes a little bit longer for Cambodia's islands, for example, to develop, then in my view, that would be better than developing it in the next 5 years, because what you have when you do things, and when you do anything too quickly, is you often don't do it the right way. You cut corners, and by taking a long-term view and doing things slowly, step by step, and learning from mistakes, but making small mistakes on small initiatives rather than, you know, big mistakes on big initiatives, we can create a long-term sustainable destination for Cambodia's coastal region. And, you know, I think in the next 10 to 20 years, the tourism development that will happen in Cambodia should theoretically provide more tourism dollars than Angkor Wat. So, you know, what happens is people come to Cambodia. Angkor Wat is a phenomenal demand driver, but they only come for maybe 2-3 nights, and then they go to places like Thailand and they spend 2 weeks on the beach. So what's happening is Cambodia is not extracting the full value of those tourism numbers. So we look at, you know, 2 million, 2.5 million people coming to Cambodia, but the challenge at a policy level is how to extract additional value. And more than anything, it's about getting them to stay here longer.
So value extraction, value creation. Since you mentioned about Thailand, perhaps you can help us differentiate a bit. What motivates you to move into this private island development? What inspires you? And I'm pretty sure in Thailand they have many similar high-end destinations like this, Koh Samui and how many other islands. Please, could you share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we all share. We all want to go to that deserted private island with a beautiful beach and crystal clear waters and palm trees. It's something that, for whatever reason, we all strive for, and 40 years ago Thailand had that. It didn't have rampant development that it does now. With last year 4.8 million people went to Phuket alone, and Thailand is very much now a mass tourism market. But the reason it started and the reason it got off the ground is because it had the beautiful untouched beaches and virgin rainforest and crystal clear waters. And that's what Cambodia has. So in many respects, Cambodia has now what Thailand had 40 years ago. And the tremendous opportunity for Cambodia is to learn from Thailand's mistakes and not develop for development's sake, but develop for the long run and develop for not just making profit, but for protecting the environment and looking after local communities and having a triple bottom line view. And to me, the immense opportunity for Cambodia as a country is to differentiate its islands and its coastal region to Thailand by having sustainable tourism models, and Cambodia pitching itself to the global tourism market as being a country that has a conscience and understands the importance of protecting its natural resources and looking after its people, and doing so through tourism. And I think that it's, from our perspective, it's a really exciting opportunity for us as a business, but in conjunction with the country as a whole, to not compete with Thailand and Vietnam. There's no reason to. You don't want to. You want to create a niche, and you want to provide a different product and a different opportunity. And it's the untouched natural resources that Cambodia has that can allow the country to do that. And that's why taking a long-term view, doing it right, and maintaining care and conservation for the people that live there and for the environment, because ultimately that's why people want to go there in the first place. So I guess you don't want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg, as we say in English.
Speaking of lesson learned, you mentioned there are some lesson learned from Thailand tourism development. Maybe in the context of Cambodia, is learning the lesson that it's okay to make small mistake, because some small mistake will trigger small negative impact. But we want to learn from the small mistake before we move to the bigger mistake, which will trigger larger negative impact. Speaking of negative impact on the environment, I would say that it's important to have regulation. It's important that the state put a boundary to the limit of what private initiative can do, but at the same time, the obligation for them to respect the environment. What do you think of that?
I think it's vital. I think that from our perspective, for example, if right next to our development on another island, say if it was developed in a non-environmentally sensitive way, then that would devalue what we're doing. And I think that regulation is important, not just from an investment perspective to protect existing investment. It's really important for the long-term growth. We all need boundaries, and we all need to be able to operate within boundaries and know what we can do and what we can't do. And to me, that's where the role of the state is vital in any industry, in any country. It's providing the boundaries that the private sector can then operate within.
Again, I will switch back to a bit more to the public-private sector partnership. For a development initiative like that, for me, I like to call it a pilot, because you're the first, island developer who have started the work with the support of CDC, of the Royal government, of the regional, provincial authority, the local authority. The partnership is there, the support is there from the national to the local level. What are the areas you think you like to see more happen? Perhaps maybe in terms of infrastructure, in terms of linkage into the mainland economy. What would you like to see in terms of additional support to make sure that not just your island development would take place, but other island off the coast of Sihanoukville, of Kampot will succeed?
The only way for our development and for the whole coast to grow is to get people there. You know, we're selling a product. In this case, it's a service, but we need a market. And currently, people fly into Cambodia either into Phnom Penh or if they're on holidays, it's primarily Siem Reap, and then they fly directly to Thailand. What Cambodia needs are direct flights to Sihanoukville. Without that distribution channel, this is all academic. You need to have customers. Any business needs customers, and distribution is a key part of business strategy. And the most important thing to develop and grow Cambodia's coastal region is to get people there. You know, there's plenty of hotels in Sihanoukville. There's the demand. What we now need is the supply. So more than anything, we just have to get flights started into Sihanoukville.
Great. So you will eventually grow into it. The government will eventually provide the support. But to me, you know, now I go back to something much more touching the Cambodian local reality. And we talk about high-end tourism. We're talking about policy development. But let's face it, the royal government of Cambodia, it's quite concerned on the issue on how we can use the effect of tourism development to help you know, the life of the poor. So in this context here, you know, how do you see your this sort of development through high-end development industry support the development, what I like to call perhaps some community-based tourism? Is there some linkage to that, and how do you work with the local community, with the local fishermen, the local island resident, you know?
Like any community, you know, you need to look after and respect your neighbours. And where we are, you know, we have a village very close by, a village of just under 1,000 people called Prixfai, and it's, you know, they're our neighbours, and for us it's vital that we work together and that we're good neighbours to each other. You know, we're 30 kilometres off the coast. We need to look after each other, and from our perspective, the biggest impact we've had so far to their lives is through employment and wages, and because these villages historically are fishing based, so the men will go out and fish. But as fishing yields decline, the incomes coming into families are dropping. So what we can provide, for the simplest way to answer the question is labour. You know, we can provide employment, and for the first time we can employ women. So, you know, it's not just the men who are out there fishing and earning a wage. The women are able to get employed and bring a second income into the family, and at the same time become empowered. And it's not a subsistence-based lifestyle. There's education, there's training, and there are skills, so that what they have, you know, in a few years' time, are, you know, the ability to speak English. You know, all of our staff learn English, and most of them are now fluent. They have skills and expertise that can be applied not only in Cambodia but elsewhere through ASEAN, and it's empowering local communities to give them control of their lives, you know, and control of their destinies. And the way to do that is through employment, providing income for families, and education.
One last point I want to raise, or is that tourism, we always think as tourism destination, Cambodia, the Kingdom of Wonder, one kingdom, one destination. We always look at the larger national perspective, but behind that there are a whole area of services, of activity, I like to call the whole thing as a cluster. You know, you're talking about cultural services, attraction services, professional services, hotel supply, catering, agribusiness, transport, entertainment, the whole thing. Where do you see Cambodia in this cluster, destination cluster? You think we have enough capacity, we have developed enough services, we have enough or not enough for that matter. What are the areas you think that Cambodia need to invest more, whether it's from the private sector? Here you're mentioning about you spend a lot of your effort also to help build the capacity of your staff to be better, you know, to move up the value chain. But what are the other areas that we should invest if we are to make Cambodia as one destination cluster that can attract high-end, good, you know, well-cared tourists?
Well, tourism is all about experience, and experiences are delivered by people. And you use the word capacity building, and that to me is the number one. It's kind of like the low-hanging fruit, I guess, for Cambodia is building the capacity within the industry. So establishing training centres where people can get certified, and it's not just about learning business skills. It's more learning vocational skills that can be applied to the industry, so that people aren't just doing smaller, more menial, lower paid jobs. They can, as you say, move up the value chain, move into senior positions, management positions, and it's training. You need the training to get the experience. Without the experience, you can't grow. So more than anything, it's providing the system and the framework for people to be able to empower themselves. There's always on-the-job training. There's always education that's provided once you've got a job. But for those who don't have a job, they need to have skills. They need to have something that they can be attractive to an employer. And it's through capacity building. It's through training and vocational training. It's having skills that can be applied. That I think Cambodia can really add value, and add value very quickly within the service industry.
Rory, I am really feel enriched with the different perspective and experience you share with us on the understanding of the linkage between tourism and poverty, and particularly in the context of concrete initiative that can turn this opportunity that most of us are dreaming into reality. And we're coming to the end of our program, but maybe if I can summarize briefly the gist of our discussion is perhaps to say that tourism have tremendous impact on the development of the country, but it does need strong policy support, strong national strategy as well as private sector strategy. It does need awareness on a key issue that there have to be a balancing, a good balance between development for profit driven, but at the same time protection, conservation, preservation of the environment if we are to make our tourism industry sustainable. And I also could say that there are a strong linkage between tourism and poverty reduction, tourism and employment at the micro level, but at the same time also in terms of income redistribution from tourism revenue. And in this context here, how we are able to learn some of your experience, and hopefully it will emulate other future island or beach developer to go along the route that you have worked so hard to open the way, is through a well-cared, well-sustained, value-driven, value addition, value creation tourism industry for the betterment of all of us, and particularly for the Cambodian people whom would appreciate being helped to get out of the poverty. And in this context, I want to say I'm very enriched, and I'm glad you took the time to come to our show. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to our end of our program, and I look forward to share with you other perspective in the weeks to come. Thank you.